love, pain, truth.
He had planned everything. Every single detail. The flowers, the music, the guest list, even the color of the napkins. Julian Thorne was a man who believed that life was like a board meeting. If you controlled the variables, you controlled the outcome. And right now, 3 days before his wedding to a beautiful heiress named Alessia, everything was running exactly as he had designed. The wedding would be held at a private estate overlooking the ocean. 200 guests, including senators, celebrities, and business partners from 12 countries. The caterers had been rehearsed 3 times. The security team had swept the venue twice. Julian had even practiced his wedding speech in front of a mirror until every pause and smile felt natural. He was not marrying for love, not really. He was marrying for power. And power was something he understood. His fiancée, Alessia, came from old money. Her family owned banks, art collections, and influence that stretched across continents. Julian had built his logistics company from nothing, turning it into a billion-dollar machine. Together, they would be unstoppable. The business magazines had already called it the merger of the decade. Julian liked that word, merger. It felt clean, safe, nothing like the messy, painful love he had known once before. That was 7 years ago. Her name was Maya. She had been nothing like Alessia. Maya worked at a small bookstore, wore secondhand sweaters, and laughed too loudly in public. Julian had loved her with the kind of desperate, foolish heart that he had since surgically removed. Their engagement had been a secret, whispered in cheap apartments and late-night phone calls. But his mentor at the time, an old wolf of the business world, had sat Julian down and given him an ultimatum. You want to run an empire? Then stop running around with a girl who sells paperbacks. She will hold you back. Cut her loose before she cuts your future short. So Julian had done exactly that. He ended things coldly, without explanation, without a real goodbye. Maya had cried. He had not. She had asked why. He had walked away. A week later, she disappeared entirely. No calls, no letters, no social media, just silence. Julian told himself it was for the best. He climbed the corporate ladder, bought the penthouse, wore the tailored suits, and never looked back. Until now. It was nearly midnight when the envelope arrived. Julian was in his study, reviewing the marriage contract one last time. His private assistant handed him a plain white envelope with no return address. Inside was not a letter. It was a child's drawing, crayon on cheap paper, a stick figure man, a stick figure woman, and a smaller stick figure standing between them. Above their heads, a crooked yellow sun. Julian almost threw it away, thinking it was a mistake. Then he noticed the postmark. A budget motel on the edge of the city, 20 miles from the glass tower where he sat. His heart did something strange. A small, forgotten muscle twitched. He called his head of security and gave an order. Find out who sent this. Now, an hour later, the security man returned with a photograph. Julian stared at it for a long time. The picture showed a woman standing outside a motel room. Her dark hair was longer now, streaked with gray. Her face had fine lines around the eyes. But the shape of her mouth, the way she stood with her weight on one hip, it was Maya. The same Maya he had abandoned 7 years ago. Beside her, holding her hand, was a boy, maybe 6 or 7 years old. Thin shoulders, messy dark hair, and eyes that stopped Julian's breath. Green eyes, his exact shade of green. She came alone? Julian asked, his voice quieter than usual. Just her and the child? The security man replied. She said she wanted you to see the drawing first. Said the boy asked her to draw a picture of his father. Julian felt the floor tilt beneath him. He had no children. He was certain of it. Maya had never told him she was pregnant. But the boy's age, 7 years old. The timing matched the last months of their relationship. His mind raced through possibilities, denials, explanations. Maybe she had adopted. Maybe the child belonged to someone else. But those green eyes did not lie. They were staring at him from a photograph, and Julian knew, deep down, that his perfectly planned life had just cracked. He drove himself to the motel. He did not tell Alessia. He did not tell anyone. The night air was cold, and the motel parking lot was littered with cigarette butts and broken dreams. Room 12 had a flickering light above the door. Julian knocked. Maya opened it. She looked older, wearier, but her eyes were still the same warm brown he remembered. She did not smile. She did not cry. She just looked at him like she had been expecting him for a very long time. "Hello, Julian," she said. "It's been a while." He pushed past her into the small room. The boy was asleep on a pull-out couch, curled under a thin blanket. His face was peaceful, innocent. Julian felt something rise in his throat. Anger, fear, guilt. He could not tell. "Whose child is this?" he demanded, keeping his voice low. Maya closed the door gently. "His name is Leo," she said, "and he is yours. I found out I was pregnant 2 weeks after you left. You wouldn't take my calls. Your assistant said you didn't want to be disturbed, so I raised him alone." Julian wanted to argue, to deny, to call her a liar. But the boy turned in his sleep, and the light fell across his small face. The same nose, the same jawline. Julian's own childhood photographs flashed in his memory. He sat down heavily on a plastic chair. "Why now?" he whispered. "Why come back 3 days before my wedding?" Maya sat across from him. For the first time, he saw exhaustion in her face, the kind that came from years of struggle and sleepless nights. She took a slow breath. "Because Leo is sick," she said. "Very sick. He needs a bone marrow transplant. And the only match in any database is you. I didn't come for your money, Julian. I didn't come to ruin your wedding. I came because our son is dying, and you are his only hope." The room was silent except for the soft breathing of the sleeping boy. Julian looked at his hands. The same hands that signed billion-dollar deals, that had never changed a diaper or bandaged a scraped knee. He looked at Maya, who had never asked him for anything, not even an explanation. "I need a paternity test," he finally said. Maya nodded. "Fine, but you have 72 hours until your wedding. The doctors say Leo has less time than that. So decide, Julian. Decide what kind of man you really are." The paternity test was done in secret. Julian drove to a private clinic before sunrise, gave his blood sample, and paid extra for results within 24 hours. He told himself he was being practical. He told himself the boy could not possibly be his. But deep down, he already knew. Those green eyes had looked back at him from every mirror since he was a child. There was no mistake, only fear. While waiting for the results, Julian returned to his penthouse. Alessia was there, going over seating charts with a wedding planner. She looked up and smiled. That perfect, practiced smile. "There you are." The florist changed the roses. "I need your opinion." Julian could not focus. His mind kept drifting to a cheap motel room, to a boy with thin shoulders and a sickness no child should have. "I have a business emergency," he said. "I'll be back tonight." Alessia tilted her head. Her eyes were sharp, curious. "You've been strange since yesterday. Is something wrong?" "Nothing I can't handle." He kissed her forehead and left. It was the first lie he had told her. It would not be the last. At the clinic the next morning, the doctor handed him a sealed envelope. Julian opened it in his car. The words blurred together, but one line stood out. Probability of paternity, 99.97%. Leo was his son. His son. The words felt foreign, like a language he had never learned. He sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, gripping the steering wheel, trying to remember if he had ever held a baby, ever changed a diaper, ever been anything other than a businessman in a suit. He drove back to the motel. Maya was sitting on the steps outside room 12, drinking coffee from a paper cup. She looked up as he approached. "You got the results." "He's mine," Julian said. His voice cracked. He hated that. Maya nodded slowly. "I never doubted it. But I needed you to know for sure, so you wouldn't have any excuses left." Julian sat down beside her. The concrete steps were cold. A stray cat wandered past, and neither of them moved. "Tell me everything," he said. "From the beginning. No more secrets." So Maya talked. She told him how she had discovered she was pregnant 2 weeks after he ended things. How she had tried to call him, but his assistant had blocked every attempt. How she had gone to his office, only to be told he was too busy for personal distractions. How her parents had disowned her when they learned she was keeping the baby alone. How she had worked 3 jobs, cleaning houses, delivering groceries, typing documents late into the night, just to afford a tiny apartment and secondhand clothes for Leo. "I never asked you for money because I didn't want you to think I was using him," she said. "I told myself you would come on your own, that one day you would grow up and realize what you threw away." She laughed bitterly. "Stupid, right?" Julian said nothing. He was thinking about all the dinners he had eaten alone in expensive restaurants, all the vacations he had taken to islands he could not remember, all the nights he had told himself he was happy. Meanwhile, Maya had been raising his son in a one-bedroom apartment with a leaking ceiling. "What happened to Leo?" he asked. Maya's face changed. The tiredness became something heavier. 6 months ago, he started getting sick. Bruises that wouldn't heal. Fevers that lasted for days. The doctors ran tests. It's a rare blood disorder. Without a transplant, his body will stop making healthy blood cells. She paused, blinking fast. "He's only 7, Julian. He should be playing soccer and complaining about homework. Instead, he asks me if dying hurts." Julian felt something break inside his chest. He had sat through hundreds of board meetings, fired thousands of people, signed deals that ruined competitors. None of it had ever made him feel like this. Like someone had reached into his ribs and squeezed his heart until it cracked. "I'll do the transplant," he said. "Whatever they need. Blood, marrow, anything." Maya looked at him with watery eyes. "That's not why I came. I came because Leo wanted to see you. One time, he found an old photo of us in a box. He asked why his father wasn't in any other pictures. I told him you were busy. He said, 'Busy doing what?' 'Being a ghost.'" She wiped her face with her sleeve. "So I decided, ghost or not, he deserved to look you in the eye at least once." Julian wanted to apologize. The words were there, stacked up behind his teeth. But before he could speak, the motel door opened. A small boy stood there, rubbing his eyes. Leo. He was wearing pajamas with faded rocket ships on them. His hair was messy, and his cheeks were pale from sickness. But his green eyes were wide awake, staring straight at Julian. "Mom," Leo said, "is that him?" Maya knelt beside him. "Yes, sweetheart. That's your father. His name is Julian." Leo studied Julian for a long moment. Then he said, "You look older than the picture." Julian let out a laugh, a real one, surprised out of him. "Yeah," he said, "I guess I am." Leo stepped closer. "Mom says you're very important, that you have a big building and lots of meetings." "I do," Julian admitted. "But right now, none of that matters." "Why?" "Because I'm here. With you." For a moment, something flickered in Leo's face. A tiny, hopeful smile. Then he looked down at his feet. "Are you going to leave again?" Julian looked at Maya. She was crying silently, not trying to hide it. He looked at Leo, so small and brave and scared. And he thought about his wedding in 2 days. The flowers, the cameras, the merger, the life he had built on forgetting. None of it felt real anymore. This boy, this tired woman, this broken little family, that was real. "I'm not going anywhere," Julian said. And for the first time in 7 years, he meant it. But the world does not stop turning just because a man changes his heart. That evening, Julian returned to the penthouse to find Alessia waiting. Not smiling this time. Her phone was in her hand, lit up with a news alert. The headline read, "CEO's secret son exposed days before wedding." Alessia's voice was ice. "Care to explain why I'm finding out about this from a tabloid, Julian?" Julian opened his mouth. No words came out. "I had you followed," she said. "The motel. The woman. The child. Did you think you could hide it?" "Alessia, listen." "No," she cut him off. "You listen. My father is on the phone with his lawyers. The merger is dead unless you fix this. So here's your choice." She stepped closer, her eyes cold and beautiful. "You walk away from that woman and that boy. You deny everything. You marry me on Saturday. Or you lose everything you spent 20 years building. The company, the money, the future. All of it." Julian stood in the middle of his perfect penthouse, surrounded by everything he had ever wanted. And for the first time, he realized none of it was worth a single thing. The wedding day arrived faster than anyone expected. Julian woke up in his penthouse at 5 in the morning. He had not slept. The bed beside him was empty. Alessia had spent the night at her father's mansion, leaving him a single text message: "Be at the altar by 4. Or don't bother showing up at all." Julian stood in front of his closet. On one side hung a perfectly tailored tuxedo, waiting for the biggest day of his life. On the other side, a simple gray jacket that he had worn 100 times. He stared at both for a long time. Then he picked up his phone and called Maya. "How is Leo?" he asked. "He's scared," she said. "The surgery is scheduled for Monday. But he keeps asking if you're coming to the hospital. He thinks you changed your mind about him." Julian closed his eyes. "Tell him I'll be there. I promise. Your wedding is today, Julian. You can't be in 2 places at once." "I know." There was a long pause. Then Maya said, very quietly, "Whatever you decide, just don't lie to him. He's had enough lies for one childhood." She hung up. Julian put on his tuxedo. He did not know why. Maybe because it was easier to follow the plan than to burn it all down. Maybe because he was still, deep down, the same coward who had walked away from Maya 7 years ago. He drove to the wedding venue in a black car with tinted windows. The estate was ready. White flowers everywhere. A string quartet playing soft music. 200 faces turned to watch him walk down the aisle. Alessia stood at the altar in a gown that cost more than most people made in a year. She was beautiful, cold, and waiting. Her father stood beside her, arms crossed. The minister smiled. The cameras flashed. Julian reached the altar. He looked at Alessia. She looked at him. The minister began to speak. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today." "Stop," Julian said. The word was quiet, but everyone heard it. The music stopped. The guests froze. Alessia's smile vanished. "Julian," she whispered through gritted teeth. "Don't you dare." He turned to face the crowd. 200 people. Senators, celebrities, business partners. All staring at him like he had lost his mind. Maybe he had. For the first time in his life, he spoke without a script. "I can't do this," he said. "I'm sorry. I thought I could. But I can't." Alessia grabbed his arm. Her nails dug into his sleeve. "You will ruin us both. Think about what you're doing." "I have been thinking my whole life," Julian said. "And I've been wrong about almost everything." He pulled away gently. Then he walked. Not toward the exit. Not toward the car. He walked down the aisle, past the confused guests, past the flowers, past the cameras. At the back of the chapel, near the last row of chairs, 2 figures stood. Maya and Leo. They were not dressed for a wedding. Maya wore a faded blue dress. Leo wore his rocket ship pajamas under a thin jacket. They had taken a bus to get here. Julian did not know that. He only knew that when he reached them, Leo was holding his mother's hand and looking up with those green eyes. "I came to see if you would choose us," Leo said softly. "Mom said you probably wouldn't." Julian knelt down. His expensive tuxedo knees touched the floor. He did not care. "I choose you," he said. "Every time. From now on. I'm sorry it took me so long." Leo studied his face. Then, very slowly, he reached out and touched Julian's cheek. "You're crying," he said. Julian laughed and wiped his eyes with a sleeve that cost more than a month of rent. "Yeah," he said. "I guess I am." Behind them, Alessia's father was yelling. The guests were murmuring. Cell phones were recording everything. Julian did not look back. He took Leo's hand, and the 3 of them walked out of the chapel together. The fallout was immediate and brutal. By evening, Julian had been removed as CEO. The board voted unanimously. His shares were frozen. His penthouse keys were collected. The news called him a fool, a coward, a man who threw away an empire for a secret child and a woman from his past. He read none of it. He was sitting in a hospital waiting room, holding Maya's hand, while doctors prepared Leo for surgery. "What if it doesn't work?" Maya whispered. "It will," Julian said. He did not know if that was true, but for the first time, he understood that being a father meant being brave even when you were terrified. The surgery took 6 hours. Julian gave his bone marrow. It hurt more than he expected. He did not complain. When he woke up, groggy and sore, a nurse told him Leo was stable. The transplant had worked. Julian cried again. He was getting used to it. The weeks that followed were hard. Julian moved into a small apartment near the hospital. He had no job, no staff, no assistant to answer his calls. He learned how to cook noodles without burning them. He learned how to do laundry without shrinking everything. He learned how to read bedtime stories in funny voices, even when he was exhausted. Leo laughed at the voices. That made everything worth it. Maya was slower to trust. She had been hurt too many times. Julian did not push. He showed up every day. He paid hospital bills with the last of his savings. He sat through parent-teacher meetings where other parents whispered about him. He held Leo's hand during blood tests and did not look away. Slowly, very slowly, Maya began to soften. One evening, about a year later, they were sitting on the balcony of their tiny apartment. Leo was inside, doing homework. The sunset was pink and orange, the kind that made you forget how hard the day had been. "Do you miss it?" Maya asked. "The big house, the private jets, being someone important." Julian thought about it. He remembered the penthouse, the boardroom, the feeling of being feared. It seemed like a dream now, something that had happened to a different person. "I don't miss it at all," he said. "I was alone in every room full of people. I didn't even know it until I left." Maya looked at him, really looked at him. not with anger or suspicion, but with something softer. "You've changed," she said. "A little boy with rocket ship pajamas changed me," Julian replied. "And his mother, who never gave up on him. Or on me, even when I didn't deserve it." Maya smiled. It was the first real smile he had seen from her in years. "Maybe we should give this another chance," she said. Slowly. "For Leo." Julian nodded. "For Leo," he agreed. But they both knew it was for more than that. The next morning, Leo found them making breakfast together. Eggs were burning. The smoke alarm was going off. Maya was laughing. Julian was waving a towel at the ceiling. Leo stood in the doorway, watching. "Are you going to stay forever now?" he asked Julian. Julian dropped the towel. He knelt down, face to face with his son. The boy was healthier now, stronger. His cheeks had color. His eyes were bright. "Forever is a long time," Julian said. "But I promise I'll try. Every single day. And if I mess up, you tell me." "Okay." Leo thought about it. Then he nodded. "Okay." He paused. "Can we have cereal instead? The smoke is making everything taste funny." Julian laughed. Maya laughed. Even Leo laughed. And in that small, messy kitchen, with burned eggs and a blaring smoke alarm, the man who once had everything finally understood what being rich really meant. It had nothing to do with money. It had everything to do with who was sitting across the table. He never went back to the old life. He started a small delivery company, just a few trucks and honest work. It was enough. More than enough. Every night, he tucked Leo into bed. Every morning, he made Maya coffee. And every day, he thanked whatever power in the universe had sent a small boy with rocket ship pajamas to save him from himself. The world called him a failure. Leo called him Dad. That was the only title that ever mattered.